Patriots fans, the 2022 NFL Draft is less than 2 weeks away. Everybody knows what they want the Patriots to do, but how exactly are they going to do it? Meaning all the financials behind the draft. We've got the financial guru here with us today. The PatsCap talks draft, free agency, and sets the record straight. I'm Mike Debate, and you're about to be locked into the Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful, and thank you once again for joining me here today on this weekend episode of Pod. And thank you once again, most importantly, for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. Remember, Locked On Patriots, free and available on all platforms. Make Locked On Patriots your first listen every day by downloading, subscribe to, and following the Locked On Patriots podcast on one of those free platforms, and also smash that subscribe button on YouTube. I am your host, Mike Debate. I cover your New England Patriots for Patriot Country of Sports Illustrated. So be sure to interact with me. Let me know what's on your mind. Send that feedback to the internet by reaching out to me and following me on the Bird app at MDABATE NFL. And while you're out there showing some weekend love to that Twitterverse, you're going to want to follow the Locked On Patriots account as well at LO_Patriots. Pats fans, Fridays are always fun here on the pod. We always love closing the week in style, and my guest today defines the word closing the week in style. I've been introducing him the last couple of times he's been on this pod as basically being able to share the microphone with the financial Mozart of Patriots Nation, and I completely do that. He does a phenomenal masterpiece every single time he joins me here on the microphone. He is the PatsCap himself, the best of the best. The plaque for the alternates does not exist because, quite frankly, folks, he has no equal in what he does. My good friend, Miguel Benzan. Miguel, once again, thank you for joining me here today. Welcome back to Locked On Patriots.
Always an honor and a pleasure to join you, Mike. It's awesome for me to be in here. I love that you've built up my ego so much. I love it.
Well, I assure you, the building up of the ego, folks, is definitely something I've been accused of doing. I assure you, it's all from the heart, and I mean that. Very few people, do I hold in higher regard than my guest today, not just for the financial wisdom and counsel that he provides to us here on Locked On Patriots, not only because he chooses Locked On Patriots to be his home for setting the record straight, but most importantly, just being one of the great guys that I know in my life. Some of the great work that he does, not just for Patriots, media, and not to mention, Patriots finances, but the great work that you do for Habitat for Humanity, and just the great family man and the friend that you are. But I consider myself a better person to know you. And that being said, there are financials that need to be discussed because, you know what, bud? It is less than 2 weeks until the draft happens.
My vacation gets over.
Illustrious Las Vegas, Nevada. Really, it's going to be a happening, no question about it. And the draft is very, very highly anticipated for so many teams. Really, this year, the New England Patriots. I think there's a special spotlight on the Pats for the draft this year. Little bit of a slower year in free agency than in 2021, and I say that tongue-in-cheek, folks. Yeah, it was a lot slower, but the Patriots did make some impactful moves. But I think there is an eye on the draft this year to really make an impact. And as a matter of fact, we met with new Patriots Director of Player Personnel, Matt Groh, earlier today. Members of the media had a chance to talk to him via Zoom conference. Very affable, very forthcoming, very upfront, and very revealing. And it was refreshing, someone in his role to be, I think, as forthcoming as he's been. Really been a pleasure getting a chance to get to know Matt. And one of the things that kept coming up, Miguel, one of the phrases that kept coming up was immediate impact. And that leads me to believe that the Patriots are going to look at this draft coming up, basically eyeing players that can have an immediate impact. And they do have some early picks. I think they're going to go with that. And here on Locked On Patriots, we've talked about players that may be a great fit for the Pats. Murph and I muse the draft every Monday. Steve
Yeah.
Balistrieri, Kevin Tame, a colleague of mine at Sports Illustrated, have been on this show several times and talked about players that can make an impact. Claire and I have broken those down on Wednesdays.
Yep.
But so much talk, Miguel, is centered around what the Patriots might do, but not a lot of talk centers around how the Patriots are going to do it. And that's where you come in, my friend, because in order to sign players, in order to put players under contract and field a team for the 2022 season, they have to have the financials to do it. And right now, according to your calculations, and I'm
Hmm.
going by your great work, because you always have that number right in the forefront, exactly where it needs to be every single time. The Patriots have $999,180 in available cap space. You
Yep.
and I both know that's not enough to go through and to operate for the year. So, as the Patriots look toward the draft, my friend, take it away. How do the Patriots get financially ready for the 2022 NFL draft?
All right. So right now, Mike, the, like you said they got $900,000 in cap space.
Right.
If they don't make any trades between now and the end of the draft to sign their draft picks, it's going to take about $3.1 billion in cap space. All right.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to sign their draft picks right after the draft. They could wait till right before training camp.
Right.
No competitive advantage is lost by waiting till July. No competitive advantage is gained by signing them in early May. And what do I mean by competitive advantage? None of us is going to see a difference on the field if the player a rookie signs in May or in July. We're not. It's not going to make a difference to the how they play
Right.
on the field because it's not going to. There hasn't been underneath the 2000 since the 2011 CBA. Not one Patriot draft pick has held out. All right,
Mm-hmm.
and when you're drafting at 21, all right, and you're not in the top five, you have no reason to even no reason to think they can negotiate, no
Mm-hmm.
reason to even think about holding out. It's not going to
Yep.
happen. All right.
Right.
So the only thing they have to worry about for the Patriots, they got to worry about for the draft right now is to have enough. All teams to have enough signing bonus money
Mm-hmm.
to proration for the signing undrafted free agents. All right.
Right.
But I don't know what the number is going to be, but I think the number. Let's just say the number was around $150,000 last year. So this year, let's make it 180,000. So
Mm-hmm.
180,000, and since undrafted free agents are signed for 3 years, it's 180,000 divided by 3 equals $60,000. The Patriots
Right.
have more than $60,000 in cap space. All right. The other thing we need to make sure of is that they have enough room for these draft picks and undrafted free agents. Right now, they have 70 players signed. So if they draft 8, they can then sign 12 undrafted free agents. All right. So,
Mm-hmm.
so they have 20 roster spots right now. Right now.
Right.
Um, some teams, like I think the Jets have like 81. So that in order to sign undrafted free agents, they're going to cut some players between now and then. All right.
Mm-hmm.
To get now, so that answers the immediate need of what's going to happen in 2 weeks. Like I said, I don't know when they're going to sign the draft picks. They have, and they're no rush, but I do know they have the create cap space to do so.
Right.
And if they wait till after June 1st, all right, to sign their draft picks, they might cut a player who has future signing bonus prorations
Mm-hmm.
to create the cap space. Because if you cut a player after or cut or trade a player after June 1st, all right, those future signing prorations will hit the cap in 2023. Where if
Mm-hmm.
you cut a player now, all that future signing bonus prorations will hit this year's cap. All right.
Oh
So you
well.
actually be able to create more cap space by cutting or trading a player after June 2nd. All right.
Okay.
And they still have several ways, Mike, to create cap space. Um, let's just see. I'm just gonna just there's several ways. There's hundreds of ways for them to create cap space. So we don't have time on this Easter weekend to go over them. We really don't. All right. So we got this several ways. Let me just give you some names and how. Matthew Judon convert most of his salary into signing bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Ditto for Jalen Mills. Ditto for um, Kendrick Bourne. You could extend Devon Godshaw. You could extend Claire's baby, Hunter Henry, create $5 million in cap space. If I know you talked about and wrote an article about Jake Bailey. All
Yeah.
right. If the Patriots draft Matt,
Hmm.
all right, that punter, the left-handed punter, they could
Matt
cut him.
Ariza. Yep.
Okay, thank you. I blacked out on his name. They could create over $3 million in cap space.
Right.
All right. Um, they could extend Jonathan Jones. They could
Hmm.
cap space. All right. They could create cap space during the draft weekend by cutting a player or two or trading a player or two, like N'Keal Harry or Jared Stidham. They have several ways to get there, Mike.
Hmm.
They have surprised me, honestly, Mike. I had listed on my, I'm looking at my spreadsheet, folks. I had listed converting Dietrich Wyatt as a possibility, but he didn't make my most likely ways of creating cap space that way. All right.
Yeah.
I've said this before. The Patriots will always do something during the offseason that surprised me. And so far they've done two. All right. So I'm expecting another one to happen because things that run in three. Um, those two being trading Shaq Mason and converting most of Dietrich Wyatt's salary. All right. So I'm expecting a third surprise between now and when they finish signing their draft picks. So I'm just giving you the most likely. I so hopefully that answers your question. They have the ways and they will create cap space, Mike, because they don't even have enough cap. I know they don't have enough cap space to sign their draft picks, so they definitely don't have enough cap space to operate the rest of the league year, and we'll address that going forward. Okay.
Yeah,
Because
exactly. And we will address that going forward. There's no question about it. My question to you back, and I know that you've touched on this and in terms of you've made it very clear that when the Patriots have to create cap space and when they should create cap space are really two. I don't want to say two different things because they're not two different things, but they do have time in terms of being able to do that. In terms of a timeline and when you expect them to do that, is there any expectation on your end as to when, or really are they dancing to the beat of their own drum?
that's to be their own drum. They don't need.
Yeah.
They could decide. They have not been consistent in when they sign their draft picks.
Yep.
Um, I wouldn't surprise me if if they decide to sign the draft picks, we're gonna see a move to make it. It's gonna be the
Hmm.
first. It's not gonna be. I'll say this. It's not gonna be the guys in the seventh or the whatever drives that got drop it in the seventh or sixth or the fifth or the fourth rounds that's gonna cause
Right.
them caps. It's gonna be the guy in the first round, the guy in the second round, and the guy in the third round that they might need to grade cap space for, depending on what they do in the
Yep.
draft. You know what I'm saying? But if
Absolutely.
they going to make a move, they'll beat to their own drum because they don't need I'm convinced that they believe that they should not push out that much money into the future or borrow cap space from the future when you have a rookie QB on a cheap deal. I
Yeah.
think they have not spent as much money as they did last year. I expect them to spend more money than in 2023 to build around Mac Jones. All
Mm-hmm.
right. And listening to Matt Groh today and how he talked about the need for immediate impact players,
Mm-hmm.
I agree with him. So that my dream scenario of the Patriots trading back and getting the first rounder in 2023, I'm
Mm-hmm.
throwing that out the window. So if you heard me say that before, I'm not sure. I don't think that's going to happen now. I just tossed that plan out the window.
Yeah, and I mean, let's face it. I mean, everybody is expecting Bill Belichick is going to trade down. That's what he
Yeah,
always does. I mean, Bill Belichick has actually traded up in the draft more times than people would give him credit for. So
right.
I think they really approach it year to year and they take a look at the players that are available and the needs on this roster. And I think the needs on this roster right now are what's driving that, Miguel. I think it's,
Yeah.
obviously there's holes on the offensive line. There's a spot at corner that a lot of people want to see fulfilled. I think the Patriots need help, not just at the linebacker position, but also along the D line. I think they're lacking that solid presence in the middle that really is going to facilitate them to be able to get after the quarterback and stop the run. So there's a lot of different areas. I know a wide receiver. I know a lot of you are probably screaming, they need a wide out. Yeah, they probably do need some help there. I mean, I think Devontae Parker lessens their need to spend a first rounder on a wide out,
Yep.
but at the same time, they're going to address that position. And, we've just scratched the surface. There is still a lot of positions that the Patriots may move here. And, folks, it's always, always interesting when Miguel comes on and joins us here to let us know how the Patriots are going to do it. That's the draft, and they are going to make moves in order to be able to spend money and have operating costs to support what they need to sign their draft picks. But the Patriots may also not be done in the waves of free agency. Miguel knows as well as I do that after the draft and in the intermittent period between the draft and OTA, training camp, that there are a lot of players that are cap casualties throughout the league and they're cut loose. Might the Patriots still be able to be active in this department? I'll ask Miguel that question and moves that could possibly still be made when this weekend episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues. But first, Miguel, the weather is getting nicer. It's a holiday weekend coming up. We love the holidays here on Locked On Patriots. And also, we like when the weather starts getting a little bit brighter. The days are lasting longer. It's getting darker later. You need to be able to do something to combat that brightness. And what do you want to do? You want to wear your shades. When your future is as bright as Miguel's, you wear your sunglasses all the time. You wear them at night. I said this to Claire the other day. Corey Hart's got nothing on her. Her future's bright. She's wearing the shades all the time. Well, if you're going to indulge in wearing some designer yet affordable sunglasses for this season, I recommend our good friends over at Shady Rays because they are an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. That's right, folks, a fraction of the price. That means polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. And also something that you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' Insane Protection Program. And I say that in a good way. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every pair. They will send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened. Or give them a try now, and if you don't love them, you'll pay nothing. It's as simple as that. Plus, every time you do business with Shady Rays, 10 meals are donated to fight hunger in America. When you shop with Shady Rays exclusively for our listeners, head to shadyrays.com and use the promo code LOCKEDON to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's promo code LOCKEDON for the best deal of the season. 50% off on 2 or more pairs of Shady Rays sunglasses backed by over 150,000 verified 5-star reviews. ShadyRays.com. Patriots fans, my good friend Miguel Benzan, the PatsCap himself, the salary cap top gun, joins me here on this weekend episode of the pod. And Miguel has already dropped wisdom and counsel that has broken the meter here today, and we always do when he joins me, but we're still haven't even scratched the surface yet, folks. Miguel, in the previous segment, we talked a lot about what the Patriots need to do to financially prepare for the upcoming 2022 NFL draft, and the Pats are going to do that. They need to clear cap space, obviously. They need to worry about operating costs and be able to operate for the entire year, and that's something they're not equipped to do right now. You know it, I know it, of course the Patriots know it, and they're going to continue to do that. One of the things that you mentioned in the last segment was ways in which they might clear some of that cap space. You mentioned extensions, possible extensions or restructurings for Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, some of the big name free agents last year that the Patriots signed, possible cap casualties, guys that could get cut. We talked about the possibility of Jake Bailey. That upsets Claire very much, by the way. She don't like when we talk about that. But sorry, Claire, it's a possibility.
It's
so
a possibility.
We have to discuss it.
It's
Absolutely.
a possibility.
It is. I mean, not saying it's going to happen. It might happen. That being said, the Patriots still have holes on this team. And if they have to cut guys loose in order to operate or in order to financially become sound, that still means that they're going to need to fill these positions somehow. And not every position can be filled from a draft pick. If the New England Patriots want to be active in that next wave of free agency that's coming, Miguel, that post-draft, cap casualty, veterans hitting the wire type part of the season, that we know the Patriots love to pluck guys out of obscurity. I'm not going to put you too much on the spot and ask you who they may pursue or what moves may be made, but how might the Patriots still find ways to be active in free agency even after the draft has come and gone?
So, Mike, I'm pretty sure there's some teams going to be like the Jets and maybe the Lions who are close to that 90-man roster will be cutting players. All right,
Hmm.
so
Right.
they'll be on the way. Either going to be if they're vested veteran with 4 or more accrued seasons, they'll just be released. Or if they're not a veteran, they'll be waived. So that either the Patriots could sign them as a street free agent, which means that player wouldn't count against the comp pick calculations in the comp pick calculations in 2023, or if they're waived, the Patriots would have to depend if they waiver claim goes through or not. Um, the other thing that we know is going to happen is after the draft, the day after the draft, even you can sign a player who was a compensatory free agent and he wouldn't count against the compensatory pick. So right now the Patriots get a third for J.C. Jackson and a 6th for Ted Karras. So you
Hmm.
could sign on May 3rd after 4 p.m. May 2nd. You could
Hmm.
sign a Tyrann Mathieu or any free agent who's available. All right,
Hmm.
and you say, well, Miguel, they don't have the cap space. All right, first look, they'll do what they did with taking on Devontae Parker, either restructure a player who had on the deal or cut a player. All right. And those, if they're going to sign like a Matthew to a deal, it's going to be a low cap number anyways in 2022. He's going to,
Hmm.
all these guys, most of the guys they signed in 2021 had a low cap number in 2021 and a high cap number this year. So you could sign a big name free agent, even though most of the guys were still free agents or on the older side. All right. But maybe you think that Matthew could give you that immediate impact that Matt
Hmm.
Groh is looking for. So
Right.
they have ways to like we just talked about in an earlier segment. They have ways to get the guys. And I'll just say this is in this part of the off season, it's very easy for a team to still create cap space, especially with this team who hasn't made very few moves to create cap space. All
Hmm.
right. So the only moves that off the I don't even think you see, folks. They they have made very few. There's one hand. There's the create cap
Hmm.
space this year. Mason, McCourty, Wise, Benoit. Yeah, those four moves. The great
Yeah.
cap space. They have way other, and
Absolutely.
they had. Man, goodness gracious! And Henry Anderson, excuse me, and the cut pay Henry
Hmm.
Anderson again.
Right.
All right, so like there's hundreds of ways. If you think the possibilities of cutting someone, trading someone, restructuring a deal, extending someone, they have hundreds of ways. And they've made 5. So
Hmm.
I'm not worried about it. Um, like our good friend Shy, I think he said after one of my last tweets, he said we were doomed. I'm like, oh goodness gracious, Mike, not they're not doomed.
I know. Sometimes it feels like that, and I know Shai is one of the big supporters here of Locked On Patriots
Yeah,
and a good friend, and
yeah.
we appreciate all of the feedback. But don't buy into the doom and gloom. I know sometimes it looks a little bit difficult to be a Patriots fan, especially when you see the cap space or you see other teams spending a lot in free agency, and you look at what the Pats are doing, and Miguel, we all see it. We see that
Yeah.
that little internet meme that goes where the stick figure is poking the Patriots logo and saying, "Come on, do something." There's a lot of that goes around, but folks, always take the temperate approach. And that's why I always love having this man on the pod, because he talks you down off the ledge, and he does it in a way that always provides you with the information, the financial information that you need to arm yourself for any type of discussion with Patriots fans who think that either the Pats are just not going to spend, or they don't want to spend, or they want to continue to pocket the money. I mean, there's all different rumors and things
Oh.
that go around out there. And yeah, I can hear it in your voice, buddy. I know he's dying to set the record straight
Oh, the
here on
pocket
Locked
of
On
money thing is just
Patriots.
crazy when they're building the
Absolutely. It truly is. And we're going to give him that platform. Before I do that, though, I do have one additional question for you.
okay.
We have seen them make moves, like you said, this offseason. The Dietrich Wise definitely surprised me a little bit, pleasantly. But believe it or not, the first day on the Patriots beat that I had here, Dietrich was the first guy that I had a chance to have an interaction with. So I was really,
That's
really
nice.
happy to do that and to see him around in the fold. Henry Anderson restructuring. I thought he might end up being a cap casualty at
Yeah.
this point, I'm glad to see him hang around because he was a player that intrigued me last year. And I think there is some contribution that he can make to that defense, especially as a run stuffer. He did that so well down in New York, and I really look forward to seeing what he can do here. But there are additional moves, like you said, that can be made. If you were to guess about maybe a surprising move that Patriots fans may not see coming, and we already talked a little bit about, Jake
Ooh.
Bailey. If there is a surprise in store for the New England Patriots, could it be to a beloved veteran? Could it be to someone that is a recent signee? What seems to be the trend in terms of how you're
Ooh,
analyzing this Patriots team to how things may shake out and what may happen to get the Patriots back into good sound financial standing?
I think the biggest surprise move that they could make would be extending Nelson Aguilar.
Mm,
I think that would surprise the heck out of people.
okay.
But you would create um, $3.94 million, around let's say around
Mm,
$4 million. All right.
yep.
If you sign him to the same API that he signed for.
Right.
Oof. Other than that, I think every other move that would create a lot of cap space,
Hmm.
I think we've talked about, Mike. So I don't know if
We
that
have
defines surprise. I mean, like,
absolutely. You know
okay,
what?
so
I'm
I mean,
so.
like, okay, so man, I guess the biggest surprise would be Nelson Aguilar.
Mhm.
I guess the second biggest surprise would be extending Jake Bailey, maybe.
Mm,
And maybe the third biggest surprise would be cutting Devon Gotcha now. I
mm,
mean, everybody thinks they're going to do something with Isaiah Wynn, so I don't think that's a big surprise. He's the
yeah.
biggest. You got to go with the money, and he's the biggest one. But that's not a surprise. So I'm
Mhm.
talking about surprise. If you're talking about surprises, oof. And I guess other fourth one would be Jonathan Jones,
Mhm.
letting him go. I mean, so
Yeah.
those. If you're looking for surprises, those are the things I'd be surprised about, Mike.
Yeah.
So, but like I don't see him coming, so that would definitely get me surprised.
Yeah, that would be, especially Jones, knowing the need
Yeah,
that they have at corner right
yeah,
now and the
yeah. So
prowess that he has at that position. Yeah, I think that would
if
probably
they
delve into the shock department.
yeah, if
I
they
like
double
that you
dip,
mentioned Aguilar.
yeah, if they double dip at cornerback, I could see it.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean, if they had
possible.
like they draft one in the first round and draft another one in the third round, and the guy in the third round is practicing like heck during training camp, I could see a surprise. I could make the case for a surprise. Maybe I can make the case,
Yeah.
especially if they don't have cap space. Because folks, if they go into if we're late August, early September, right near training camp, and they have very little cap space, there's going to be a couple of players who with a high cap number, so not going to be on this team.
Yeah.
And I, so all
Absolutely. It's
right,
true.
so like one of them is like Nelson Aguilar. Yeah, I mean, it really depends on what happens during training camp.
Hmm.
Um, but I could see. I mean, if you're looking for four surprises, I'm going to go with them.
Mm, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that you make such a good point. And notice, folks, I tried to lay the trap and he did not take the bait. He did not mention N'Keal Harry's name. So that means
Oh,
that
okay. How is that a
More Miguel
surprise,
always.
Mike? How is that a surprise?
Well, what would be a surprise is if they signed him to an extension, a multi-year extension. I
Okay,
think
but
that would
that
be
wouldn't create cap space though. So
yeah,
okay,
exactly. And that
okay,
would
okay.
just, that yeah, that's just my way of trying to upset the
Yeah,
fan base because, I catch enough. I catch enough for being a Harry apologist. No, I'm kidding, folks. I
there you
assure
go.
you
There
I'm
you go.
kidding. But no, that would not be it. And that would not create cap space. Miguel is
Yeah.
absolutely right. But no, I always appreciate it. And we love to have some fun at your expense. But now it is time for Miguel to put myself and all Patriots media members and a lot of the fan base in their place by setting the record straight, folks. It's a segment that is unique to Locked On Patriots. It's one of my favorite parts of the week. I always love doing this when he's here, and we are going to set that record straight in just a moment. But once again, my friend, it is getting to be the time where the weather's getting nicer, and naturally, you want to get in shape, and
Yes.
not only physically in shape, but you also want to get everything around you in shape. You're manicuring the lawn a little bit more. You're improving the curb appeal of your home. Well, that includes your ride as well. Don't let your automobile become an afterthought. You want to get it in shape for the summer months. You want to be able to get around. I know gas prices are rough right now, folks, but you definitely do want to make sure that that ride is running as well as it can be. You can save time and money when you do business with our good friends over at rockauto.com. Why choose to spend 30%, 50%, even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or a car dealership? RockAuto.com is a family business, and they've been serving do-it-yourself customers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. You don't have to be an insider or a member that's in the business to be able to take advantage of their great prices. They discount for everyone, and they have everything that you could possibly need, from brake parts to tail lamps, motor oil, even new carpet. Whether it be for your weekend classic or your daily driver, you definitely want to do business with rockauto.com. Go and explore their easy to use website today to find the solution for your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now, see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, Locked On in there. How did you hear about us box? So they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. And once you've done your due diligence to save some money on your automobile, maybe you want to take some of that savings and help to make it work for you. And if you want to do that, sports season is always the best time of year to do it. And it's such an exciting time to be a sports fan. For all the latest odds, contests, player props, betonline.net is the #1 source for all your sports betting needs. All the wagering information needs, live betting, your favorite Vegas casino games. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and the action. Bet online, where the game starts. Pats fans, it is always a blast talking ball, talking financials, really just talking anything with my good friend Miguel Benzan, the PatsCap himself. The financial wisdom and knowledge he's dropped here today really should be a collegiate course, in my opinion. Foxborough Finance 101, add it to the docket, add it to the syllabus on every New England college campus. Believe me, college kids will be much, they'll be better informed. They really and truly will, by the wisdom and counsel dropped by my good friend here. But we've talked the draft, we've talked about free agency. You've indulged my dumb joke on N'Keal Harry. I can't thank you enough for that. But now it's time for a segment unique here to Locked On Patriots. And there are a lot of cat myths that are circulating throughout Patriots media, throughout Patriots fandom. I'm not going to belabor the subject any longer, but I am going to give you the microphone. The comm is yours. Take us home today here on this holiday weekend. Set the record straight, my friend. All yours.
I got 3 things, Mike, that I want to get off my chest. One, it's not Jason Fitzgerald. It's Nick Corte who does all the compensatory pick work at overthecap.com. All right. It cracks me up that people still say it thinks it's Jason. It's Nick. That's a simple one. Just want to get it off. I like, as a person who does, I think sometimes doesn't get enough credit, especially when I see something that I tweet out and I see it in somebody else's things, and I know they got that information from me. They don't give me credit. I just want to give Nick credit for the compensatory work he does. All right. The second thing I wanted to say is I heard one of my followers had mentioned that Bill Simmons and his co-host Kevin had mentioned they follow someone about the Patriots salary cap, and they had this about a minute discussion about the Rams and the Patriots, and he was talking about how the Patriots don't, and Bill was saying how the Patriots don't have any cap space when they have a rookie quarterback. And folks, it's the reason, and I said this before early in the show, the major reason is that the Patriots have very little cap space. Is one, they've chosen not to create cap space. All right. And the second biggest reason is, and Bill had said they only signed 4 free agents last year. They signed 25. Okay. More than half were signed to multi-year deals.
Right.
All right. And so I'm including in these numbers, I'm looking at my numbers. I'm also include Trent Brown in these numbers because they acquired him via trade during the early part of the free agency of 2021. All right. So I have the guys who have 15 guys who they acquired last year during free agency. All right. Whose cap number in 2021 was close to $66 million. Their cap numbers now is over $111 million. All right, that's about a $46 million difference, and I'm including guys that they cut like
Oh
Kyle
yeah.
Van Noy, a pay cut for Henry Anderson, and Trent Brown. His new deal is actually less money,
Hmm.
has less a cap number than he had in 2021.
Right.
All right, it's even with those three, three guys who've taken less, have a small cap number. There is a $46 million difference. All
Hmm.
right, and let's not forget, every player, every rookie who's on any player who's on a rookie deal, their salary went up because they had one more credited season. All right,
Hmm.
so
Right.
they went from, let's pick a rookie last year. He had a $660,000 salary. Now it's up to $825,000. All right, or
Mm.
stop. All right, it went up. Everybody who's on a minimum salary deal, their salary went up by the difference in the salaries. All right,
Right.
and then he was talking about, and Bill made a funny point about the Rams and the Bermuda Triangle. And I swear, is people forget the players that they have lost
Mm.
during, and they have made a they get each year they get several comp picks. All right,
Hmm.
and they're gonna get four next year. They're on schedule to get four next year. All
Hmm.
right. And people forget about that. Like they lost Von Miller. All right.
Yeah.
This year. They traded away Robert Woods. They
Hmm.
traded away Todd Gurley. And people forget and they let Trumaine Johnson go. They let other players go. And they
Hmm.
had Andrew Whitworth retire. Those
Right.
players who have left the roster are in the Bermuda Triangle. People
Yeah.
forget about that and they remember the splashy stuff.
Hmm.
Okay. It cracks.
Yep.
I thought it was Bill Spanman
Yeah. That's true.
was spot on with the Bermuda Triangle analogy. All right,
Yep.
and I have to end with the third and last thing. I have to end with what Rob Gronkowski said, and
Mm.
I took it as I listened to the video about the incentives thing, and at the end of the day, I thought he was joking. All right, but somebody asked me, "Is it true?" And he basically, when we're talking about that, he basically said that the Patriots hold back players from earning their incentives.
Yeah.
All right. So I spoke this thing up, Mike. And I said, I've been covering, and I just wanted to say this out loud. I've been covering the Patriots salary cap since 2000.
Hmm.
I freely admit to not knowing all of the incentives have been in every Patriots contract since then.
Right.
All right. But that being said, I can't recall a time where I ever thought the Patriots prevented a player from earning an incentive. On the other hand, I can easily point to Corey Dillon in 2004,
Hmm.
Sebastian Vollmer in 2014,
Right.
Vince Wilfork in 2014, Alan Branch in 2016, and Chris Long in 2016 as instances where I thought the Patriots clearly helped the player reach his incentive.
Right.
I also know for a fact that the Patriots in 2019 paid Lawrence Guy and James White signing bonuses after they barely missed out on earning incentives in 2018.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, that really, because that's the narrative. I mean, that's people are going to take that and they're going to run the Patriots hater playbook. And yeah, Bill's cheap. That's it. We're gonna, yeah, it's sinister. That's exactly what they do. They take the comment and then they run it, but they don't actually look at what really goes on behind the scenes or what has been done to refute that point. So that's why I am so appreciative of you and making that point here today. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please go ahead and
No.
continue.
It's like,
But that's something I really do appreciate because I
okay.
think
So,
it is important for people to hear that, including some of my colleagues here on the Locked On Podcast Network.
oh my gosh. All right. So, okay. Rob Gronkowski only had in his, when his Patriots, he only had incentives to deal 2 years,
Hmm.
2017 and 2018.
Right.
2017, he had three tiers: a $1 million tier, a $3 million tier, and a $5.5 million tier. All right.
Hmm.
He got the $5.5 million tier because he got nominated to he was named to All Pro team. All
Right.
right. I, people say, well, they didn't target him in the last game of the year against the Jets. Okay. All right. I Before the game, I've been tweaking. I knew about the Al Pro vote. And I said he's going to get it anyways. I
Hmm.
never thought he was going to play a lot of snaps. I didn't think about the target thing because I knew he was going to. I thought for sure he was going to get it, the All Pro team.
Right.
But it also was also know that he missed a game that season because he got suspended for the Bills
Hmm.
game.
Right.
So if it was his actions, in my opinion, that caused, if he was going to not get that 5.5, it was his actions, not what the Patriots did.
Good
I
point.
think the Patriots, if I'm a fan, and I know some of the people who I were engaging on Twitter also thought that the Gronk was going to get the All Pro. I'm pretty sure the Patriots thought he was going to get the All Pro. I don't think
Right.
they made the game plan against the Jets to say I'm not going to throw the ball at the Gronk on
Mm,
because it didn't matter.
good point.
If you thought he was going to an All Pro, it didn't matter his stats in the
Right.
last game was. All right. In 2018, he didn't earn any of it. He had 4 ways to earn full $1 million each. All right. And
Hmm.
he had but the max he could get was 3.3. So he had
Right.
4 ways to earn 3.3, $1.1 million. All right.
Hmm.
He didn't come close. He had 40, he needed 70 catches, had 47. Needed 74 point, had 80, needed 80% play time, had 75.
Hmm.
Needed 9 TDs, had 3.
Mm,
Needed 1,085 receiving yards, had 682. Had nothing
mm,
to do with, and in my opinion, he missed his incentives because he missed 3 games in the middle of the season because of a
mm,
back problem. I
right.
don't think the Patriots didn't activate him in the middle of a season when you don't know if you're making the playoffs.
Right.
All right. I could, like, you don't know in the middle of the season because of injuries, you don't know what's going to happen,
Right.
right, in the future. So you can't, it doesn't make, it's not logical to say that they held him out in the middle of the season to prevent him from earning his incentives.
Mm,
All right.
good point.
And final thing. Let's just say he says those things, but the other players in the NFL are acting like they don't think it's true. And the
Hmm.
reason I say that is in 2015, the Patriots players could earn $9 million in incentives.
Yep.
Okay. In
Right.
2017, the number went up to $18.75 million.
Hmm.
2018, $23.75 million. 2019, $18 million. 2020, $22 million. 2021, $33 million. This year, $31 million. If the other players in the NFL believe that the Patriots were going to hold them back from earning incentives, why are they now signing incentive-laden deals?
Mm,
And then I'll say this:
very good point.
Why, if Gronk believed that, why in 2017 would you sign an incentive-laden deal? Why in
Mm,
2018 would you sign an incentive-laden deal?
yeah.
Okay,
You're right. You're absolutely right.
so
And
that's,
this is where either a joke or however it was intended. I mean, and I can't speak for Rob's intentions
yeah.
because I
I
don't
think
know. It,
I
it
thought it
could have
was a joke,
it could have been and it very well could have been.
and
It could
because
have
he
been a
did
very
say
innocent joke.
afterwards, I shouldn't have said it.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said that. It was probably a joke, maybe to, at the expense, again, buying into the national narrative about Bill being cheap and things of that nature and always a step ahead.
Yeah,
And, Bill is going to, squeeze whatever he can. I mean, that seems to be like the national MO when it comes to him. But bottom line, I think when you look at what the Patriots do, and we've seen several examples of them trying to help their players achieve these goals, or even when they just fall short, being able to still make good on it because of the good faith effort. It is, clear, and it's definitely something that can be seen by all parties involved. And if you're not making those incentives, or if you're falling that far short, and I'm glad that you mentioned some of the statistics in terms of where you needed to be as opposed to where you were at the time, I think it really does. It lends into that, narrative where, well, maybe it's not, the last game of the season that just defines when you're going to earn those incentives or
I
whatnot.
mean,
It has to be over the course of a full year.
yeah, because I know with Julian Allen, the year he got suspended, he didn't get some of his incentives. Whose
Right.
fault is that?
Yeah.
Whose fault is that?
Exactly.
It,
Yeah.
it was like, all right, and
Absolutely. Yeah.
it's not the Patriots' fault. They didn't. I know we could tell by their actions they didn't do anything to reduce his salary like they
Right.
did with Tom Brady and Rob Nikovich. So you could
Hmm.
tell by their actions that the Patriots were unhappy with Julian Smith Elman being suspended.
Yep.
All right, because so they didn't help him out salary wise like they did Brady and Nikovich. All right.
Right.
So I was not expecting, as someone who does this tracks and sent how Patriots players are on their way to earn incentives. I do this on a weekly basis during the season, Mike. Right?
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
never
you do.
expected that the Patriots would go out of their way to give Julian Edelman his incentives during that year.
Hmm.
All right,
Right.
because I knew that they didn't help him out with his salary, so I knew they weren't gonna do anything. I was not expecting them to do what they did with Wilfork in 2014, keep him on the field, or in
Hmm.
2004 in a meaningless game in 2004, the Patriots
Hmm.
did not need to win the last game of the season. All
Right.
right. And they kept Corey Dillon in the game so he can earn a $375,000 rushing yards incentives. He was like
Mm.
81 yards away from $1,600 yards. And they
Yep.
kept him in the game in a meaningless game because they already clinched the number one seed. They had
Right.
no reason to
Yeah.
play him at all except to have him earn his incentive.
Earn his incentives, exactly. And there you go. And there's an example of someone who has always spoke glowingly about the Patriots, even in the years after he left New England. Corey has always had good things to say about the organization, and you have to think that reasons like that are what does drive those types of comments and those types of sentiments. For all the negatives that we hear, it's nice to hear the positives mixed in as well, and to see that. So Bud, what can I say?
Yeah,
You set
thank
the
you.
record straight. You knock it out of the park every single time I set you up. You always hit it out of the park. That, like I said, folks, the PatsCap Top Gun is right here on Locked On Patriots with me today, and I could not be happier to welcome him and to provide him with a platform that so many are, providing him with now, and I could not be happier for that. But before I let you go today, please let everyone know not just where they can interact with you, because not only are you one of the great Twitter follows in any aspect of the Twitterverse, I know most of our followers or most of our listeners are following you already, but what they can look forward to in terms of your coverage of the draft, of continued free agency, and also anything else that you'd like to bring up, because I know the phenomenal work that you do in the community is something that, to me, is greater than what you do for all of
Thank
us here in New England when it comes to keeping us up with Patriots finances. What you do in the community is truly the remarkable work that I'm so proud to say that I know you for. The floor is yours, my friend. Please take us home with anything you'd like our listeners to know here today.
I'm gonna just keep on tweeting out stuff. It's been this month has been kind of slow,
Mm,
right? But like
yeah.
I said, like this, I wasn't expecting a lot of transactions right before the draft. I'm not expect. I will be surprised, folks, if the Patriots make any moves this week. Okay, this
Hmm.
next week. Give me a month. All right. If they make a move, I wouldn't be surprised if they make a move before the draft to trade a player or to acquire another draft pick.
Hmm.
Um, w- but we'll see. I mean, right before the draft. After the draft, I'll be banging out, trying to keep in track of the undrafted free agents. They're not going to, folks. They're going to sign deals. It's going to have very
Hmm.
little impact on the cap because it's only going to be so the signing bonus proration, if any,
All right.
will hit the cap. So they
Hmm.
might, like for example, let's just say John Doe gets you hear that he gets 150,000 guaranteed for the
Hmm.
Patriots, right?
Right.
And $10,000 is a signing bonus.
Hmm.
That $140,000 guaranteed salary is not going to hit the cap right away.
Right.
All right, just think about the signing. Divide that 10,000 by three. All right, I'll be doing that. I did some. Hopefully, you might have gotten something if you donated in the past. A Habitat of Humanity. You might have gotten a mailing. I
Hmm.
helped with that mailing. I didn't autograph those because, but that's what I'm doing right now. I'm spending gonna do spend more time doing that. As as during the summer months as they have builds, I'll be out
Hmm.
there. So if you live in the Connecticut area and you want to help out in building, help build a house, I hope to see you there.
Absolutely. And
Because
folks,
I'm not handy,
again,
so I need as much help as I could possibly need. I'm not handy at all, folks.
well, he can financially give you the wherewithal to be able to build
Uh,
that house, but in terms of the efforts there, I'm sure he's a lot better than he gives himself credit
no,
for.
I'm
And
I'm I'm
all,
I'm better like pick it up and move it over there. I'm a good like mover guy. I'm not like
Hey, you know what? The mover guys are the
yeah,
guys that we need. That's
yeah,
it. They're all every effort, every hand in the
yeah,
pot definitely helps to make the meal, as far as I'm concerned. And my
yeah.
my friend, what can I say? The great work that you do to further that cause. Check out Miguel's Twitter feed, folks, at PatsCap. All the Habitat for Humanity work that he does, including donation links, things of that nature. If you want to get involved, Miguel's got all of the
Yeah, if
information
you're
right there for
especially
you.
if you're a youth, a young person, they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
have a conference at the end of this month, and I've been tweeting it out. So if you live in Connecticut and you want to join in, and you're a young person, you should do that now.
Absolutely. And again, folks, I could not recommend it highly enough, and I cannot give this man enough praise for doing what he does for the community. So thank you, Miguel, for helping to make our community a better place. We need more people in the world like you, my friend, and I think
Thank
we'll
you.
be a little bit happier and maybe a little bit more sound as a result. But folks, definitely continue to follow his great work for the Patriots when it comes to keeping track of the salary cap with the draft just less than 2 weeks away now, and the next wave of free agency coming up. You're definitely going to want to stay tuned to all of the great work that he does. In the meantime, thank you very much for spending part of your week here with us on Locked On Patriots, and for continuing to make Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. Thanks once again for making us your first listen every day. Download, subscribe to, and follow the Locked On Patriots podcast on platforms such as Spotify, the Odyssey app, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Stay locked into Locked On Patriots and smash that subscribe button to us on YouTube. On behalf of my good friend Miguel, the PatsCap Benzan, I'm Mike Debate. Stay safe, folks. Stay well. Have a great holiday weekend, and we'll see you again here on Monday, right on Locked On Patriots. Thank you once again.